I built Johnson Innovations with my bare fucking hands, clawing my way up from nothing in a world that didn't give a damn about a black woman with big dreams. 35 years ago, I was just a 25-year-old nobody, scraping together nickels and dimes from friends who thought I'd lost my goddamn mind, renting a shitty little office in the suburbs that smelled like mildew and broken promises. Society sneered at me, called me crazy, a fool, a bitch who didn't know her place, but I didn't give a fuck. I had a vision of financial tech empire built on equality, creativity, and respect. A beacon in the heart of New York, city that'd shine brighter than their bullshit prejudices. And I did it. I turned that pipe dream into a billion-dollar juggernaut, a skyscraper piercing the sky with its iconic logo blazing, every night like a middle finger to everyone who doubted me. Johnson Innovations wasn't just a company, it was my soul, my blood, my goddamn legacy. For 35 years, I poured everything into it. Slept on my desk when I couldn't afford a bed. Worked through nights so dark I thought I'd break. Fought off vultures who wanted to steal it all. I made it a place where people mattered, where the little guy wasn't just a cog in the machine. Then, 3 decades in, my body started screaming at me to stop. Time doesn't give a shit about your dreams, it grinds you down. And I knew I couldn't keep running the show forever. So I handed the reins to my son, James, my pride and joy. The Harvard grad ID groomed to carry this torch. He was sharp, driven, soaked in the values ID drilled into him: fairness, guts, and giving a damn about every soul under that roof. I stepped back, thinking I could finally breathe, trusting him to keep my baby alive. But fuck me, was I wrong? Barely a few months into retirement, the whispers started creeping in, dark, ugly rumors that hit me like a punch to the gut. My old colleagues, the loyal ones who'd stuck by me through the lean years, started slipping me warnings. "Emma," they'd say, voices low and shaky, "something's rotten in there. The managers are turning into assholes again. Pricks stomping all over the little guys. It's not your company anymore." At first, I brushed it off. Bullshit, I thought. James wouldn't let that happen. But the whispers grew louder, sharper, slicing through my denial like a rusty blade. Stories of janitors getting screamed at, humiliated, treated like dirt. A culture of fear choking out everything I'd built. My stomach churned every night. Sleep a distant fucking memory as I pictured my life's work crumbling into some corporate hellhole. Then came the letter that broke me. It showed up one stormy night, shoved under my door like a goddamn grenade. No name, no return address, just a scrawled, desperate plea on crumpled paper: "Emma, the company's dying. They're crushing us. You're the only one who can save it. Please." The handwriting trembled, ink smudged with what I swore were tear stains. I stood there, rain hammering the windows, my hands shaking as I read it over and over. Who the fuck wrote this? Some poor bastard too scared to show their face. My chest tightened, rage boiling up like lava. This wasn't just gossip anymore, this was a cry for help. A knife in my heart from someone trapped in the wreckage of my dream. I couldn't ignore it. I wouldn't. I paced my apartment for hours, the city lights flickering outside like a taunt. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a countdown to a decision I didn't want to make. Going back meant risking everything: the reputation, my peace, the legend I'd become. If anyone found out Emma Johnson was sneaking around like some undercover cop, the headlines would eat me alive. Founder turned janitor, has she lost her damn mind? I could see it now, the snide laughs, the pity. But the alternative? Sitting on my ass while my company fucking soul-rotted from the inside? No way in hell, I'd rather die than let that happen. So I made the call. The craziest, gutsiest move of my life. I did go back not as Emma Johnson, the untouchable queen of fintech, but as Susan, a nobody janitor in a gray uniform, invisible to the suits who'd forgotten what this place stood for. I'd see it all with my own ice cruelty, the betrayal, the truth they thought they could bury. It was a gamble that could blow up in my face. If they caught me, I'd be a laughingstock, my legacy torched. Worse, what if I found out James was in on it? The thought made my blood run cold. A betrayal too sick to imagine, but I had to know. I had to fight. That night, I dug out an old pair of glasses, a cheap wig, and a uniform I hadn't touched since the early days. My hands trembled as I looked in the mirror, seeing Susan stare back a frail, silver-haired shadow of the Titan I'd been. My heart pounded like a war drum, fear and fury warring inside me. This wasn't just about saving a company anymore, it was personal, a reckoning. I'd built this place from the dirt up, and I'd be damned if I let some power-hungry bastards tear it down. With that letter clutched in my fist, I swore to myself I'd walk into that lion's den, face the wolves, and drag the truth into the light no matter how bloody it got. This was war, and I was ready to burn it all down to save what was mine. The first day I stepped into Johnson Innovations as Susan, I felt like I'd walked into a fucking war zone. That gray janitor's uniform clung to me like a shroud, the wig itching my scalp, those thick glasses fogging up from my own damn nerves. I'd built this placivery gleaming floor. Every light in the ceiling in, now it was a stranger, a beast I didn't recognize. The letter that had dragged me here burned in my pocket, a ghost whispering. Save us. I'd sworn to uncover the truth, but holy shit. I wasn't ready for the hell that hit me. It started with Michael Carter, the operations manager, a smug, slick-haired asshole who strutted around like he owned my company. I was scrubbing the 38th floor hallway, sweat dripping down my back, when he loomed over me like some goddamn predator. His voice cut through the silence. Sharp and venomous, you're nothing but a janitor, nothing at all. Clean this floor again until I can see my reflection clearly in it. Or never come back here again. I bit my tongue, hands trembling on the mop, and muttered I'd already done it 3 fucking times. Big mistake. His eyes narrowed, a sick grin splitting his face, and before I could blink, he grabbed a cup of ice-cold water straight from the fridge. Frost still clinging to it, and dumped it over my head. Now you have something real to clean. He barked, laughing like a hyena. The water hit me like a slap, soaking my hair, streaming down my face, pooling at my feet on the floor I'd just polished. I flinched, the cold biting into my bones. But what gutted me was the sheer cruelty, deliberate, calculated. Like he got off on it. A couple of young staffers snickered nearby, their phones out, probably snapping pics to mock me later. My fist clenched, rage boiling up, but I swallowed it. I had to play the part. Had to stay invisible. Then there was Sophia, this quiet Latina immigrant on the cleaning crew. Barely 30, with eyes that screamed exhaustion. I caught Michael cornering her near the elevators one night, his polished shoes gleaming under the lights. Shed dropped a bottle of glass cleaner pure accident. Her hand shaken from fatigue wind, it splashed his precious fucking loafers. He exploded, his voice echoing like thunder. Do you know how much these shoes cost? Do you think you'll ever be able to pay for them with a lifetime of cleaning? People like you need to know your place. If this happens again, don't even think about coming back here. Sophia crumpled, bowing her head, tears streaking her face as she whispered apologies. He stomped the bottle, shattering it into a million jagged pieces, glass skittering across the floor like shrapnel. I had to clean it up, my knees aching on the cold tile, picking up every shard while he strutted off, leaving her sobbing. My heart broke for her, but it lit a fire in me those bastards weren't just hurting me, they were crushing everyone I'd promised to protect. And Ethan Davis? That little shit, the marketing director, was a whole other nightmare. Young, cocky, dressed like he stepped out of a GQ ad. Had watched me scrub his office with a smirk that made me want to ram the broom up his ass. One night, I'd just finished the common airy spotless. Every chair in place when he sauntered in, eyeing me like I was trash. Why do we still hire useless old people like you? A robot vacuum could do a better job, he sneered. Then kicked over a stack of papers I neatly arranged, scattering them like confetti. Oops, he said, grinning. Start over, Susan. Maybe this time you'll get it right. My blood boiled, every muscle screaming to tell him who I really was, but I bent down, picked up the mess, and kept my mouth shut. He stood there, arms crossed, watching me like a king gloating over a peasant. It wasn't just humiliation, it was a fucking power trip. And I was the punching bag. Every night got worse. The air in that building turned toxic, thick with arrogance and indifference. I'd catch glimpses of my old office through the glass walls, now Janus domain, and wonder if he even knew the shitstorm brewing under his nose. My disguise held, but the weight of its insults, the smears, the goddamn invisibility start cracking me open. I built this empire to lift people up, not to let pricks like Michael and Ethan grind us into the dirt. That letter wasn't wrong, my company was dying, and I was neck deep in the proof. But fuck, if I'd let it end like this, he was just getting started. Michael Carter turned into a goddamn monster, a sadistic prick who got off on making my life hell. One Wednesday night, I just finished scrubbing the 38th floor Halloween niece screaming. My back and out of pain when he slithered. Out of the shadows like some fucking vampire. The lights glinted off his smug face as he pulled a pristine white cloth from his jacket, wiped a spotless corner, and held it up like a trophy. "Is this what you call clean, Susan?" "I thought by your age you should know what clean looks like," he snarled, his voice dripping with venom. The cloth was pure as snow, not a speck of dirt. But he tossed it to the floor like garbage. Embarked clean this entire hallway again, and remember, if you want to keep your job, I don't want to see a single mistake. No matter how small. I bent to pick it up, my hands shaking with fury. And that bastard stomped on my finger shirtus, polished shoe crushing my knuckles into the tile. "Move faster, you old hag," he sneered, laughing as he walked off. Pain shot up my arm, blood pooling under my nails, but I swallowed the scream. I had to keep going, had to stay Susan. Even as my soul roared to rip his fucking head off. A few nights later, it got worse, way fucking worse. I was in the 40th floor conference room, wiping down windows so clean you could see your soul in them, when Michael stormed in with a steaming cup of coffee. He stood there, looming over me, and said in this fake casual tone that made my skin crawl, "Susan, do you know why people like you will always just be janitors? Because people like you always accept mediocrity. You have no ambition, no capability, and no self-respect." Before I could even process the insult, he tilted that cup slowly, deliberately, and let the scalding coffee spill onto the floor I'd just scrubbed. A few drops splashed my legs, burning like hellfire through my thin pants, blistering my skin. "Clean it up, Susan. I want this place to be so clean I can see my reflection in it," he ordered, smirking as he set the half-empty cup on the table and sauntered out. The pain was brutal, my flesh raw and throbbing. But the humiliation cut deeper, like a knife twisting in my gut. I stood there, mop in hand, steam rising from the mess, fighting the urge to chase him down and smash that smug face into the wall. Then came the night that nearly broke me. It was late, the office half empty, and I was finishing the main floor, when Michael showed up with a posse of junior staffers puppets, who hung on his every word. He held a cup of ice-cold water, his eyes glinting with something dark. Something evil. "Now you have something to clean, Susan. Remember where you are and who holds the power here," he said. And before I could brace myself, he flung it right in my face. The shock of it freezing, soaking me to the bone, and knocked the breath out of me. My uniform clung to my skin, dripping, as water streamed into my eyes, blurring the world. The staffers froze, jaws dropping, but Michael laughed out loud. Triumphant cackle that echoed through the hall. Someone's phone flashed, they were fucking recording it, turning my disgrace into their entertainment. I stood there, drenched and shaking, every muscle screaming to fight back, but I couldn't, not yet. My heart pounded like a war drum, rage and shame clawing at my chest. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about Sophia. About every invisible soul these bastards crushed. I'd built this place for them, and now it was a fucking slaughterhouse. I built this company to be a sanctuary, a place where people like me could rise. But Michael Carter had already turned it into his personal torture chamber, dumping ice water on my head, crushing my fingers under his heel, scalding me with coffee just to watch me squirm. Ethan Davis wasn't far behind, kicking over my work like a spoiled brat and laughing in my face. I'd seen Sophia break under their cruelty, her tears mixing with shattered glass, and every insult they hurled at me stoked a fire I could barely contain. But nothing peppered me for the night Sarah Thompson, the vice president of business, ripped my dignity to shreds. It was late, the 44th floor quiet except for the hum of the AC, and I was in the big conference room polishing that massive oak table until it gleamed like a mirror. My hands ached, my legs screamed from hours on my feet, but I kept going. One slip, one speck of dust, and those bastards would have another excuse to grind me down. I'd survived Michael's sick games. Ethan's smug tauntsy thought I could handle anything. Then the door slammed open and Sarah stormed in like a goddamn hurricane, her heels clicking like gunshots. She was in her 40s, all sharp edges and designer suits, dragging a pack of nervous assistants behind her, their arms full of papers. Her eyes locked on me, and I swear I saw hellfire in them. "What do you think you're doing bothering us while we're preparing for such an important meeting? Who gave you permission to interfere with the leadership's work?" She snapped, her voice cutting through me like a blade. I froze, mop in hand, my heart pounding. I'd seen her name on memos, heard whispers of her ruthless streak, but this was the first time she'd turned that venom on me. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady Susan's voice, not Emma Sand said, "Sorry, Mrs. Thompson. I'm just following the pre-scheduled cleaning routine. It'll be done in just a few minutes. Big fucking mistake." Her face twisted, eyes blazing with rage, and she stepped closer, towering over me like I was some bug she couldn't wait to squash. "Are you daring to argue with me, Susan? Have you forgotten your place?" She hissed, her words dripping with disgust. The room went dead silent, the assistants staring at the floor, too chicken shit to look up. I opened my mouth to explain I truly apologize if there's any inconvenience, but this is the procedure set by the operation department, but she didn't let me finish. Her hand shot up, fast as lightning, and cracked across my face with a force that sent me staggering back. The slap was a fucking explosion. My cheek burned like Shed branded me, my ears ringing, the mop clattering to the floor as I stumbled into a chair. Blood trickled from my lip, hot and coppery, staining my uniform. The assistants gasped, paper slipping from their hands, but Sarah didn't flinch. She leaned in, her voice a low, icy growl. "You need to remember who you are and what position you hold in this company. If you ever dare to defy me again, I'll make sure you regret it." My vision blurred, tears stinging my eye snot from the pain, though that shit hurt like hell, but from the sheer soul-crushing humiliation. I built this room, signed the checks that paid for those fancy leather chairs, and now I was nothing, just a punching bag for this power-drunk bitch. The assistant shuffled out behind her, avoiding my gaze, leaving me alone with the wreckage of my pride. I stood there, trembling, the taste of blood in my mouth, the sting of her handprint pulsing on my skin. My mind raced back to Michael's water, Ethan's sneers. Sophia's terseness wasn't just cruelty anymore. It was a fucking declaration of war. My company, my legacy, had turned into a slaughterhouse, where people like Sarah could smack me down and walk away untouched. For a second, I wanted to rip off the wig, scream who I really was, and burn this place to the ground. But I didn't. I wiped my face with a shaking hand, picked up the mop, and kept going. That slap wasn't just a hit, it was the breaking point. I'd take this shit no more. Whatever it took. I'd bury these ashholes and bring my company back from the dead. They'd fucked with the wrong woman. Sarah Thompson? That cold-blooded bitch had slapped me so hard my lips split, leaving me bleeding on the floor of a room ID built with my own sweat. I'd seen Sophia's tears, felt the weight of every invisible worker crushed under their boots, and that fire inside me was roaring, ready to burn these ashholes to ash. But nothing, not a goddamn thing, prepared me for the night I stumbled onto their sick little conspiracy. I'd gotten smart or desperate after Sarah's slap. My hand shook every time I thought about it. That sting on my cheek a constant reminder of how far my empire had fallen. I couldn't just take it anymore, I needed proof, something to bury them. So I rigged my cleaning car, tucked a tiny recorder and a pinhole camera under the rags. A cheap setup ID bought with cash from a shady electronics store in Queens. Every night I rolled that cart through the halls like a fucking spy, heart pounding, praying no one would notice. I'd survived Michael's sadistic games, Ethan's sneers. Sarah's violence, this was my shot to fight back. Then, one stormy Thursday, the 42nd floor went dark except for a faint glow from a corner office. Thunder rattled the windows as I crept closer, the cart squeaking like a traitor, and I heard voice low, urgent, dripping with venom. I parked the cart by the door, pretending to mop, my pulse hammering in my ears. Inside were Michael, Ethan, Sarah, and Lisa Anderson, my HR director, the one I'd trusted to keep this place human. They were huddled around a laptop, maps and spreadsheets glowing on the screen, plotting like goddamn gangsters. Michael's voice cut through first. Tight and panicked, we no longer have time to hesitate. James is starting to suspect. If we don't act soon, the whole plan will fall apart. My stomach dropped. James Mason, my pride, the kid ID handed my legacy to. Sarah chimed in. Her tone icy. James is too weak to lead this company. We need a stronger leader, someone who can take the company in the right direction, the direction that benefits us. Lisa, that two-faced bitch, nodded. I prepared all the internal documents and financial information. Just a few more steps, and all the evidence will show that James is not capable of leading. Ethan grinned like a jackal. Let's finish this plan quickly. We need to move more budget into the subsidiary companies we control before everything gets exposed. Then Michael dropped the fucking bomb. When James steps down, you'll take over as CEO. The senior positions will go to you. At that point, we will have full control over Johnson Innovations, and no one will be able to stop us. I stood there, frozen, mop dripping in my hand, the rain lashing the windows like it wanted to drown me. They weren't just bullying janitors, they were staging a goddamn coup, planning to rip my company out of Jama's hands and turn it into their personal piggy bank. My chest tightened, rage and betrayal clawing at me like wild dogs. These fuckers weren't just spitting on my WSD, were stabbing my son in the back. The kid I'd raised to carry this torch. Then she'd a knock at the door. Some assistant, probably with coffee, banged loud enough to make me jump. I yanked the cart back, ducking behind a potted plant as the door creaked open. My heart slammed against my ribs, sweat soaking my uniform. If they caught me now with that recorder whirring, I was dona fired, exposed. Maybe worse. The assistant stepped out, glancing my way, and I held my breath, praying the shadows hid me. He shrugged and left, the door clicking shut, and I exhaled, legs trembling. I dodged a bullet, but the truth hit harder than Sarah slapped. My company was a snake pit, and James was their prey. I clutched the cart, my mind racing. This wasn't just about saving the little guy anymore, it was personal. A fucking war for my family, my legacy. I'd burn it all down before I let them win. I was a fucking wreck after hearing Michael, Ethan, Sarah, and Lisa plotting to screw over James and steal my company, me goddamn legacy that night on the 42nd floor. That recorder in my cart was burning a hole in my soul. Every word of their conspiracy looping in my head like a horror show. I'd built Johnson Innovations from nothing. Endured Michael's water-dumping bullshit, Ethan's smug kicks, Sarah's slap that split my lip. All to save it from the rot that letter warned me about. But this was war, and I was done playing punching bag. I decided to test the waters, to see if Lisa Anderson, me HR bitch, who turned traitor, had any shred of decency left. Big fucking mistake. I cornered her the next day, heart pounding like a jackhammer. Still in my Susan Disguisa gray uniform soaked with sweat, wig itching like hell. Her office was all glass and steel, a throne for a queen who'd sold me out. I knocked. Voice shaky. Gerald publicly poured cold water on my head, and Ethan intentionally made a mess to make me redo tasks multiple times. That's not strictness, that's bullying and degrading our dignity. My hands clenched, expecting at least a flicker of concern. Instead, Lisa leaned back in her cushy chair, her eyes cold as ice, and smirked, "Are you sure you're not overreacting, Susan?" In the workplace, sometimes leaders have to be strict to ensure work quality. This isn't anything new. I suggest you adapt instead of being overly sensitive to situations like this. Her tone was pure venom, dripping with fake pity, and it hit me like a punch didn't give a fuck. I pushed harder. Desperation clawing at me. Doesn't the HR department have any policies in place to protect low-level employees like us? Lisa's face tightened, her mask slipping for a second, and she snapped Susan. "Remember that this company hired you to clean, not to evaluate or comment on the management's leadership methods. I hope you won't waste any more of our time." Then their phone buzzed, and she picked it up, eyes flicking to me with a glint of suspicion. "Michael, yeah, I'm handling it," she said, her voice low, and my blood ran cold. Did she know? Was my cover blown? I backed out, muttering some bullshit apology, my legs like jelly as I bolted down the hall. That look was a fucking snake, coiled and ready to strike. And I just stepped on her tail. This wasn't just denial, it was a warning. I'd seen her name in that conspiracy, heard her plot against James, and now she was shutting me down like I was trash. The game was up, he had to move fast or we were fucked. I couldn't fucking breathe after Lisa's icy shutdown and her glass-walled "let her adapt" or "shut up" bullshit still echoing in my head. That suspicious glance as she whispered to Michael on the phone. That recorder in my car was my lifeline. Proof of their betrayal, and after Lisa's reaction, I knew the clock was ticking. I had to tell James Noah we were fucked. I raced to his apartment that night, storm clouds choking the sky. My heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. The wig was off. The uniformed Chetty was Emma again, but shaking like a goddamn leaf. James opened the door, his face lighting up mum, until he saw my eyes. Wild with panic, I shoved past him, locking the door, and dropped the bomb. Recently, I secretly returned to Johnson Innovations under the guise of a janitor named Susan. You've gathered all the evidence, including audio recordings and videos, clearly proving that Michael Carter, Ethan Davis, Sarah Thompson, and even Lisa Anderson, people whom you and I trusted, wholeheartedly are planning to force you to resign as CEO and then take full control of the company. His jaw dropped, the color draining from his face as I slapped the USB onto the table. Its tiny click like a gunshot in the silence. He grabbed it, hands trembling, and choked out, "What the fuck, Mom? This can't be real." I paced, my voice breaking. "It's real, James. I heard the Michaels gunning for your chair. Sarah calling you weak, Lisa faking evidence to frame you. They're bleeding the budget dry into their own pockets." His eyes flared with rage, but then Shith's doorbell screamed. We froze, staring at each other like deer in headlights. "Delivery," a voice called, but it sounded off too sharp, too late at night. My mind raced. Had Lisa tipped them off? Were they here to silence us? James crept to the peephole, whispering, "Some guy in a hoodie," and my stomach twisted. We waited, breath howled, until the footsteps faded. False alarm, but it lit a fire under us. James slammed his fist on the table, those backstabbing sons of bitches. I trusted them. I grabbed his shoulders. We fight back, now together. The storm outside roared, but inside, we were ready to unleash hell. The night James and I locked eyes over that recruiter proof of Michael, Ethan, Sarah, and Lisa's fucking coup against him, I knew it was do or die. I'd heard their conspiracy with my own ears, plotting to get my son's reign and steal my goddamn legacy. After that hoodie-wearing bastard rang Janice bell, nearly blowing our cover, we didn't waste a second. We called an emergency board meeting, and I walked into that skyscraper one last time. As Susan ready to unleash a shitstorm they'd never see coming. The boardroom was a cathedral, a power mahogany table gleaming, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a stormy New York night. James sat at the head, his jaw tight, while the bordered suits ID handpicked. Decades Aga murmured like vultures sensing blood. I rolled in my car, mop in hand, the wig itching like hell. My heart pounding so loud I swore they'd hear it. Michael was there. Smirking like a king, Ethan slouched beside him, Sarah tapping her nails. Lisa scribbling notes, all of them oblivious to the bomb I was about to drop. James nodded at me, subtle but sharp, and Michael caught it. He sneered. Voice dripping with venom, "You're letting these lowly people linger around during something as important as this." James? Since when did a board meeting include a frail, useless janitor like her? Susan, didn't I make myself clear? Your place is in the restroom. Or some filthy corner where cleaning needs to be done. Not here eavesdropping on executive meetings. The room chuckled in, I felt the old burns on my legs flare up from his coffee stunt. I stepped forward, slow and deliberate, every eye on me like I was a ghost. My hand shook as I ripped off the glasses, tore the wig from my head, and let my gray curls fall free. The air sucked out of the room as I roared, "Hello, everyone." Perhaps some of you in this room have forgotten who I am. I am Emma Johnson, the founder of this company, and I stand here today not to listen to baseless insults from those who have betrayed the trust I once placed in them. Michael's face went white as a corpse, his chair screeching as he stumbled back. Ethan choked on his own spit, Sarah's pen clattered to the floor, and Lisa's eyes bulged like a deer in headlights. The board gasped, a tidal wave of shock crashing over them. James stood, slamming the USB on the table like a gavel. "Play it," he growled. And the speakers blared their voice into Chael's panic, Sarah's venom, Lisa's lies, Ethan's greed laying out their plan to oust him and hijack my empire. Michael lunged forward, screaming, "Robert, you can't do this. You've dedicated so many years to this company." James cut him off. Voice like steel, "Because you've spent so many years in this company, Michael. Your betrayal and unethical actions are even more unforgivable." Ethan made a break for the USB, desperation twisting his face, but a board member grabbed his arm, slamming him back into his seat. Sarah leapt up, shrieking, "You'll regret this, you fucking bitch." And I laughed loud and raw right in her face. James turned to the board. "I propose that the board immediately suspend these 4 individuals and launch a full internal investigation." The vote with swift fans shot up, a unanimous aye ringing out like a death knell. Security stormed in, burly guys in black, and Michael thrashed, yelling, "This isn't over," as they dragged him out. Ethan kicked a chair, Sarah clawed at an arm, screaming curses, and Lisa just glared, silent venom in her eyes. As they were hauled away, the room buzzed, the board shell-shocked, but I felt a victory, hot and fierce, pumping through my veins. I'd walk through fire Michael's cruelty, Sarah's slap, their fucking treason, and come out swinging. This wasn't the end, it was the goddamn beginning of taking my company back. After we torched Michael, Ethan, Sarah, and Lisa in that boardroom bloodbath, I felt like I'd clawed my way out of a fucking grave. But winning that fight didn't mean shit if we couldn't rebuild. The company was a smoking wreck, and the vultures were circling, ready to pick us clean. The fallout hit like a goddamn tsunami. The next morning, headlines screamed Johnson Innovations rocked by executive scandal. Investors panicked, stock prices tanked, and rival firms started sniffing around, hoping to carve up my life's work. Inside, the air was thick with fair employees whispering in corners. Terrified their jobs were toast. James and I didn't sleep. We holed up in my old office, the one ID built from scratch, now his war room. Papers littered the desk, legal docs, PR drafts, plans to stop the bleeding. He looked at me, eyes bloodshot but fierce, and said, "From this day forward, our company will undergo a comprehensive cultural, managerial, and internal process overhaul. We will establish a transparent system where employees at all levels can raise issues they face without fear of retaliation or oppression from superiors." I nodded. My voice raw. Today is not just the day we remove betrayers, but also the day we begin a new chapter. A chapter where Johnson Innovations returns to the values I once built: respect, fairness, and dignity for all, no matter their position or role in the company. But fuck, it wasn't that easy. The board was on edge, demanding results yesterday. While whispers of a whistleblower leaked some disgruntled asshole from Michael's crew threatening to spill dirt to the press, I tracked him down myself, a greasy little prick named Tony. Chain smoking outside a dive bar. You want to bury us? I growled, staring him down. Or you want to help fix this shit? He smirked, flicking ash, but I saw the crack in his bravado fear of jail time if his role in their scheme came out. I offered him a deal: shut up, testify against Michael, and keep his ass out of prison. He caved, but it was a close fucking call another leak, and would have been toast. Then came the real gut punch: the workers. I called an all-hands meeting, stood in the atrium where Michael once drenched me, and faced hundreds of ISOM angry, some broken, all waiting for answers. Sophia was there, the quiet janitor whose tears had fueled my fight, her hands still calloused from cleaning up their messes. We fucked up, I said, voice booming. I let those bastards turn this place into a hellhole, but we're tearing it down and building it back better, stronger, fairer. James stepped up, laying out new rules, open-door policies, anonymous hotlines. Zero tolerance for bullshit. A guy in the back yelled, "Why should we trust you now?" And I snapped because I bled for this. Plus, literally, and it'll be damned if I let it die. The room buzzed, tension thick, but I saw nods, flickers of hope. Days turned to weeks, a brutal slog-firing loyalist to the old regime. Rewriting every goddamn policy. Facing down lawsuits from Michael's camp claiming wrongful termination. One night, a brick crashed through Janice's office window. A note tied to it: "You're finished." We stared at it, glass crunching underfoot, and I laughed at a hard, bitter sound. "They're scared," I said. "Good." We doubled down, hiring counselors for the staff, boosting pay for the lowest rung, turning that atrium into a war cry: no more invisible workers. It was messy, ugly, and fucking exhausting, but slowly the tide turned. The stock stabilized, the press backed off, and I saw Sophia's smiles more. But real, we weren't just rebuilding a company, we were resurrecting a dream. And I'd fight through hell again to make it stick. A year after we dragged Michael, Ethan, Sarah, and Lisa out of Johnson Innovations in handcuffs, I stood in the atrium, same spot, where Michael once drenched me with ice water and looked out at a company I barely recognized. In the best damn way. That desperate, tear-stained letter had pulled me back into the fight. A fight that cost me blood and pried Michael's sadistic games, Ethan's sneers, Sarah's slap that split my lip, Lisa's cold betrayal. I'd gone undercover as Susan, heard their plot to screw James and steal my legacy, and with my son by my side, would burn their reign to the ground in that boardroom showdown. Rebuilding was a brutal slog: lawsuits, a brick through Janice's window. The press banged for our heads, but we'd clawed our way back, piece by fucking piece. Now it was time to see if it had all been worth it. The atrium buzzed with staff janitors, coders. Suitsel gathered for Janice's first annual address. As the CEO who'd survived the storm, he stepped up, sharp in his suit, ID picked out, and his voice rang out today. I want to express my deepest thanks to my mother, who's not only my mother, but also a symbol of courage, resilience, and the spirit of the fight for justice, equality, and compassion. The crowd turned to me, clapping, and I felt my throat tighten. Pride, yes, but something deeper. Rawr, he went on, laying out the numbers: stock up 20%, turnover slashed. A rep is the place to work in fintech. But it wasn't just that. Sophia, that quiet janitor who'd cried under Michael's boot, was there. Now heading the cleaning crew, her chin high. The hotline would set up buzzed with feedback, not fear. And the glass walls that once hid tyrants now reflected a team breathing free. I took the mic. Legs shaky, but voice steady. Life sometimes pushes us into the most challenging situations. But it is precisely in those moments that we truly understand the true value of compassion and faith. Fairness. I hope that this lesson will live on in each of us. The room erupted, a roar that shook the walls ID built decades ago. But it wasn't all Cheers Michel's lawsuit. It hit us hard. Dragging through courts, a last gasp from a dead man walking. We'd won, but the legal bills stung, and some scars like the whispers if she let it happen still lingered. Yet as I looked out, I saw Tony, the whistleblower I'd flipped, now a trainer, and Sophia handing me a note. "Thank you, Emma." My eyes burned. Tears I didn't fight, because this wasn't just victory, it was redemption. That night, alone in my apartment, I held that original letter, its ink faded but its weight eternal. I'd walk through fire, humiliation, betrayal. A brick through glass to pull my company back from the brink. James was stronger now, the legacy secure. And Johnson Innovations stood taller than ever, a middle finger to every bastard who tried to bury us. The lesson wasn't just survival, it was about fighting for what's right, even when it fucking hurts. I folded the letter, set it on the shelf, and smiled. We'd done it. Rebuilt a dream, not just a business, and that motherfucker was worth everything.